sometimes a lesson just comes together in a way that really, as a teacher, makes your day. And this lesson that we learned about the rock that Moshe hit and the well of Miriam was really a lesson like that. I have to show you what the kids did. So this we came about at the end of the lesson when I asked all of the students to ask a question about the story. Now we'll come back to this later, but it shows just how excited the kids were and interested and involved in the lesson. So what did we learn? Let's go back. In this lesson, we learned Bamidbar chapter 20, Perek Kaf. The kids learned about the death of Miriam, the lack of water for the Jewish people, and then the fact that the Jewish people came and sort of attacked Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe and Aaron, and Hashem told Moshe, get a rock, go to this certain rock, go to the rock and talk to the rock, and the rock will then bring water. And Moshe didn't talk to the rock. What Moshe did was he hit the rock, and Moshe was punished for this. So first of all, it's important that the kids all know this story. Okay, so what we always do in the word wall is children fill in a word wall and make sure that we know the essentials of the story. Also, what I wanted to do for the kids was have them be familiar with certain amount of important Hebrew phrases. To be Jewish people, say to Moshe, why have you brought the community of God to this desert? So we asked them to identify who said this. The Jewish people said that. Another thing that they said was very important that I wanted them to know is that Moshe has commented to them before he struck the rock. He said to them, Shimuna hamorim. Listen, you bitter people. Am I supposed to get water out of this rock? Moshe said it. But it's important for them to understand and identify important Hebrew psukim as well. Then, what I asked the students to do was ask a question about this story on a sticky note. Be sure to add your name. And they asked such insightful questions. And what came out was something really, really beautiful. Why did Hashem choose a rock? Why did Moshe hit the rock? Why didn't the Jews pray for water? But one of the students said, why did Hashem tell Moshe to speak to the rock? When they first started the desert, he said to hit the rock. And I didn't know if I was going to get into this, but this student knew, and this we shared with the rest of the students, this is not the first time the Jewish people lacked water. In Shemot, we learned that Jewish people also lacked water, and there Hashem told Moshe, to find a rock and hit the rock. And here Hashem told Moshe to speak to the rock, and instead Moshe hit the rock again. And that raised the specter of why in an earlier story did Hashem say to Moshe to hit a rock, and now 40 years later, at the end of their travels in the desert, did Hashem tell them to speak to the rock, which Moshe didn't do. Finally, the last thing that we did with the students in this lesson was I gave them a Google form, and I said, pick one question from the Jamboard that you want to try to answer. What question would you like to answer? And then what's your answer to the question? And the kids came up with such insightful answers. They often asked other students questions and suggested an answer. And what I liked about this the most was the idea of teaching the students to think about questions about a story, but also think about possible answers and not to be afraid to suggest an answer. Sometimes the answer is based on information they didn't have, but sometimes it shows where they're coming from and how they understand the story. So you could talk to your kids about Moshe. Why did he hit the rock instead of speaking to the rock? Why was he punished so severely that he didn't get to go into Eretz Yisrael for the simple sin of hitting the rock instead of speaking to it, or any other question that they might have had? Make it a great week.